welcome to Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we are back again with another episode, this time to talk about a movie that I think is probably considered one of the more famous films, an all-time classic, considered by many, chosen by Griffin. We're here to talk about the original Rocky.
Yep. It's pretty famous sports movie. Some might consider it the greatest sports movie of all time. I'd originally watched it back in November for the first time and kind of made my way through the other Rocky movies as well. And I thought talking about the original on the podcast would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and because I've never liked a movie, guys. I do think it's good, but I think it got a little overhyped. And it wasn't like... Because we didn't really talk about this movie like in exchange to each other, right? Like, not occasionally really, no. For episodes... We'll comment on different things, and I know we had brief conversations about stuff, but we don't really spoil anything for each other, and we don't have like those in-depth discussions until we get here for the podcast episode.
Most of our discussions, save for the podcast, we'll do like minimal, like if we're watching the movie, like we might back and forth text each other, be like, "Yo, there was this like one funny moment," and but like we're never like we don't have discussions like these before the episode.
Yeah, so the overhyping I think mostly comes from just society. I don't know. Like I'm getting peer pressured or something.
I mean, yeah, I could see why it's overhyped. I mean, I don't really buy into the overhyping too much, but like at the same time, I can see how people would think that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Let's hear about what you had to say first, though. We don't want to get into all that right quick.
Sure. So starting off with just general thoughts. When I watched this movie back in November, I loved it, and upon a rewatch, I think I liked it even more. I like how it starts kind of like as this like underdog story where like you have Rocky Balboa. He's like he's pretty poor, I'd say. I mean, he's working like a loan job where he's like a leg breaker, I think it's what it's called, where he has to go around like collecting money from people. And then he's also like a part-time boxer too. So he gets into like a lot of fights in the ring too, but it's never anything like really super big too. And I think that's kind of like what the whole movie is about, is kind of like getting that opportunity to go big, and just like the ambition of working towards that larger goal is like the build up to it too.
An underdog working up towards ambition. What movie from last year have I heard similar to this?
I wonder.
A certain Marty Supreme, perhaps, which will come up here shortly. I do have a point that kind of ties back to that movie just because of recency. But yeah, I do think overall it is good. There's just some problems I don't vibe with. I do love the sets. Everything's pretty practical.
Oh, yeah.
The script is well written. All the dialogue feels pretty realistic. I don't feel like I'm watching, two actors have a conversation. I feel like I'm watching people have a conversation, which kind of contradicts how I feel about the acting in this movie. I don't really care for Sylvester Stallone, which he's the main character, so you think...
it's kind of like you kind of need to like him in order to really enjoy the movie. But
I just couldn't do it, man. I don't know why. I felt like I was watching just Sylvester Stallone more than I did Rocky.
Yeah.
And I think, he, and I just did it too, but he says, like, every 5 seconds. It's so annoying. I don't know if that's like the same thing as John Bernthal's like, let me tell you something or whatever, but it gets to a point where it's genuinely bothersome. There's a scene in the movie where he's talking with what's the lady's name that I'm forgetting?
Adrian?
Yes, Adrian. They're talking in his apartment, and he's ranting about something, and he says in the span of a minute and a half at least 6 times. It's absurdly, like, an absurd amount for what's really necessary for anything. So I don't want to like hate on him too much for that, but it gets to a point where it really bothers me.
Yeah, and he says it like 6 or 7 times. But no, I okay. More
in the Grand 2-6, I thought we could leave this behind.
But no, on a more serious note, but yeah, him saying like, it's kind of like it is part of his character. Like, he's not exactly like, mentally smart, like with his brain and whatnot. He's more of like a a fighter. He's not so much probably thinking more with his fist than like his brain. So that is probably just like a part of that. But I can see like how excessive it would be and like how annoying that might get.
Yeah, I think the acting here really shines with Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed. Despite how little of the movie he's actually in, that kind of surprised me as well. But, I don't think I've seen a movie of Weathers where I've disliked any of his acting, right? Because every time either he'll have some different mannerism or there'll be like a slight accent or twist on his voice and the line delivery, so that way you can differentiate each character from each other. And he's kind of one of those actors as well where like when you hear that voice, it's Carl Weathers.
Right.
But through the physical acting, you can break out of that and not recognize him as that anymore. I don't feel that way with Sylvester Stallone. Maybe it's just because his voice is too strong.
Yeah, with like Sylvester Stallone, like you can imagine the character Rocky Balboa, but like at the same time, it's Sylvester Stallone. But like with Apollo Creed, it's like okay, sure, maybe in the back of your head it's Carl Weathers, but like at the same time, like looking at his character, like you don't really realize that it is Carl Weathers most of the time. You see more Apollo Creed than you do Carl Weathers. But like with Rocky Balboa, you see more Sylvester Stallone than you see Rocky.
Yeah, that's especially true. I think whenever you get towards that end of when they first enter that final ring, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you get a lot of Apollo Creed energy out of that. I think acting-wise, too, Burt Young as Paulie and Burgess Meredith as Mickey do phenomenal jobs as supporting characters. They're not in the movie for an absurd amount of time, except for Paulie. Paulie's in it for the majority of it.
Yeah.
As Rocky's best friend, kind of.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they do a good job. I think what makes Rocky's character most interesting and memorable to me is not really the acting or the performance or anything, or even the arc, honestly. I'll get into that here in a minute, but more so just the aesthetic that it gives off. The
aesthetic, the spirit, just like it takes place in Philadelphia. It's like, so it's kind of, and it's during like a gloomy time of the year. It's like during winter, starting from Thanksgiving to New Year's, and it definitely plays into the gloomy atmosphere a lot, where it's like, not everything's going well for Rocky, but like at the same time, like as like Christmas and New Year's come along, that tends to be like more of a joyous time of year, and that's kind of where it starts where life starts to like pick up for him too.
Yeah, and the aesthetic being kind of true to the 70s here with Rocky's leather jacket and then just the environments around here, I can appreciate that the cinematography takes its time with those environments. There's very minimal cuts and scenes, and most of everything is tracking or panning. So you, as an audience, get to just kind of simmer in the world that you're in and just kind of breathe it in, kind of. I don't know if that makes sense. That's a weird phrase for that, but you just kind of get yourself immersed in it.
Exactly, yeah. You get yourself really immersed, and then you also get yourself really immersed into the ever so famous montage training scenes,
which
too.
Is peak. I know ball. Okay, that scene is peak.
And like a quick fun fact too, like the film didn't have like a huge budget, only like $1 million, which $1 million is $1 million, but like
for a college kid like me, only $1 million. But I can see it for film studios.
For like production wise, even in the 70s, that's not like a whole lot. So with like a limited budget and like a limited amount of time to film it too, because I think they're trying to get it all done in the winter. But like a lot of the stuff had to be like shot out in public and not really on sets. So like, especially during like the training scenes, like he's just running through like the streets, and like there's that one scene like where he's running through like the marketplace, and he gets tossed an orange shoe and he catches it. That moment was like totally unscripted. Like someone just like threw him an orange because he thought he was just like a random jogger or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And like another thing too, on topic of the low budget, when he's in like the boxing ring too, and you got like the two posters of Apollo Creed and him, his pants are the wrong color. They're supposed to be like silver and not red. And that was just like an actual misprint too.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah, it was. And he goes like, "Hey, that's the wrong color." And they managed to work it into the film.
I was about to say, I thought that was like just part of the the story that like they
No,
made a misprint for this underdog because they just didn't think much of him.
Right, no, that was like an actual misprint on set, and Sylvester Stallone just managed to turn it into kind of a comedic moment, and it kind of fits into like it could have been like a misprint because he's an underdog and like they just don't know him too well.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier briefly about the time this movie takes place, right? You start around
Like Thanksgiving week.
yeah,
and it ends on
Thanksgiving, and
New
you end
Year's.
around New Year's. This bothers me. I'm kind of a stickler for continuity. There's a time and place to forgive certain continuity errors. As a Fallout fan, I'm constantly dealing with this, but like Shady Sands moves locations like 7 times, and we all just are whatever with it.
I don't play Fallout, so
Yeah.
but yeah.
But, you know, for a movie where I'm visually watching something for a long amount of time, you got to keep it consistent. It's different if you get spacing between different things and slight details are wrong that don't really matter to anything. But
I'm gonna kind of have to disagree on that pacing issue a little bit because yeah, no, it does go from like Thanksgiving to New Year's, and it happens kind of fast. But like at the same time too, there's like hints that time has passed, like with his training montage, and like there's the one scene where Apollo Creed is talking about like where he's trying to find a fighter for the exhibition fight. He's like 5 weeks is like not enough time for like anyone to really get into tip top shape. So like there is like acknowledgement that time has passed, but like at the same time, it's just like I don't quite see how that's really an issue, but
counter argument. Okay, let's take this 5 weeks thing, for example, right? 5 weeks is no time for anybody to get in shape. Well, we've already established in the very first scene of this movie that Rocky has already been a boxer for a while. So
Yes.
I don't feel like it's that much of a stretch to assume that he could get ready kind of quick. Then with the whole thing of like the training montage and time passing, that in itself makes sense. That's fine because obviously training over time. However, watching those scenes, I don't feel like more than maybe a day or a day and a half has passed. So what's the real reason that they couldn't have just not acknowledged the holidays and still had time pass? Because the time between everything on a pacing level works perfectly. I don't think there's any problems with the pacing of the movie.
right.
It's just the continuity of when it starts and ends bothers me.
And like that's a fair point too. Like it maybe it doesn't feel like 5 weeks have passed, but like at the same time, like too, like dates are mentioned and like they're not gonna put like a SpongeBob title card being like 5 weeks later or anything.
You would hear
like
me
that.
complain more if they put a title.
Oh yeah, no, I would be complaining too, but at the same time too, it's like you just kind of have to like naturally assume that 5 weeks have passed.
I mean, I didn't, but
I'm-
maybe I'm smooth brained. I might be smooth brained. Yeah, I know I mentioned the pacing feels fine, and I do think that still holds true despite this next point, but I cannot be bothered to care about like the first 56, 58 minutes or so. It feels slow is not the right word, but unimportant. I understand that we need to get introduced to the character, right?
Right.
And we get that wrapped up pretty quick early. We see the boxer stuff. We see that he's this leg shaker, whatever you called it.
Leg breaker,
Yeah,
yeah.
leg breaker. So like I know who Rocky is as a character, right?
Yeah.
And then everything after this is just his relationship with Adrian. And this falls back into that Marty Supreme thing that I was talking about, where it reminds me of the second act of Marty Supreme, where it's just a lot of character background that I don't think needed to be as long as it was. Because whenever you were talking about it, that was a point you had made, is that the second act just kind of isn't as important and doesn't feel like as comfortable to watch. And whether
I mean, I would say that about the whole movie, but like separate point.
yeah, but like bringing that point back out, that's how I feel with this instance, because this relationship just fundamentally doesn't work. Very, very clear anytime they interact for this first 56, 58 minutes or so that Adrian is not interested in the guy. Rocky completely forces himself onto her.
Yeah.
And then literally the next scene, they're cuddled up on the couch. What? No, I don't vibe with that. That bothers me. And their relationship towards the end of the movie doesn't even really matter any. The interesting part of this is the boxing. I want more boxing. I'm sure maybe a sequel somewhere along the way is just more boxing.
Yes, given that there are like 5 other Rocky movies, yes, there's more boxing in the other movies.
Yeah, but then
More boxing centered movies, I should say. But
Yeah, and then going back to like the Marty Supreme thing that I was referencing, right? Acts 1 and 3 of that are very ping pong focused, right? Compared to the second act of more of Marty's personal life. So in this movie, that first half is more personal life focused compared to the second half being boxing focused, and it just doesn't work for me. If you have something so interesting, give me more of the interesting thing. I'd rather my time be spent with something that's engaging to watch, like that final boxing moments, right? I'm like, I kind of know what happens because I've made the mistake of watching Creed and Creed 2 in theaters, but
you have seen Creed?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I kind of know bits and pieces, but that's still the interesting stuff. I want to see more of that. I don't need an hour long to tell me who a character is.
I will say, I think the point of the first Rocky movie is more about his character than it is really his boxing career, or the boxing match, I should say.
Which I can understand.
Right. And like the film does, take like 50 minutes to an hour, like setting up his character. Like it takes you through like what his daily life might be like what he does to kind of like, side hustle to get money, and like where he lives. And yeah, I can see your point about like, yeah, this relationship with Adrian is kind of like a little bit whack, but like at the same time too, like the focus of the story isn't so much on the boxing as it is like their relationship. Like spoilers for the end of the movie too, but like even at the end of the movie, like he doesn't care so much that he's like lost the match to Apollo, because he's still like happy to see Adrian there at the end, like when they come running towards each other, or like they both like embrace each other at the final moments. But like the point of the story isn't like so much like purely all about boxing. Like as I know you said, like you get it. It's like not entirely on the boxing. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to derail and like rant about Marty Supreme too much, but that's a whole other can of worms I'm not going to open on this episode.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah,
I think my problem with that though, like if it's not about the boxing, right, it's about Marty, or not. Sorry guys, Rocky as his life. I can understand how it works, just like thinking about it. It's just in execution, it does not hit for me. Especially with fair. Yeah, especially with how you mentioned, he doesn't care that he's won the fight against Apollo. He was looking for Adrian, right? I can't get behind their relationship because the development of it feels so forced, uncomfortable, genuine sexual harassment, and then the cutest couple you've ever seen, the scene after. That's not. It doesn't work for me like that. I need that relationship to evolve naturally and feel like it's moving on a correct path. I don't know. It just doesn't strike me the same way.
Yeah.
Another minor point that I had that I don't think is worth discrowning any points, but it's still worth bringing up just because some of the hits in this, is like they're fighting, are very clearly fake. And I know that's the whole point. That's how every movie that ever has fighting for the most part is. But some of these are very blatant misses that I think if we saw that kind of action choreography today, there would be genuine outrage over it.
Yeah, no, there would. And like I can agree, like maybe the staging for the boxing isn't like the best, but at the same time you kind of have to keep in mind too, like they were on like limited time and budget to get this out. So like I don't think necessarily they had like all the time of the world to like figure out the perfect or like a better like boxing choreography or something like that. But I can kind of I see your point there.
I think the worst part with that is that even though they're kind of on this time restraint, they accidentally did figure out how to do it and then just didn't do it again. The opening scene is very blatant misses. It looks terrible with the boxing hits. I don't think it looks good. It's very obviously fake. And then you get to the final match, which is the only other instance of boxing aside from the meat cooler or meat locker, whatever you want to call it. And
the fridge.
Yeah,
whatever.
And it starts out the same way where, it's kind of slower paced. You can't tell as much with the hits, but whenever they start really wailing on each other and get faster paced and more aggressive with their swings, that's when it looks more real because they're putting
Right.
their weight behind it. And I know boxing matches kind of have that same tempo, right? Where there's those like slow jabs and punches, right? And then you get really into the
And then you
wailing,
really
like the
start going
rib shots,
ham on-
uppercuts,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So they figured out how to do it and make it look right, especially the rib shots. Those look very, very real.
Oh yeah, no, that's
So I don't know if that was just by accident. I don't know if they made some sort of stand-in for Carl Weathers and just told Sylvester, go for it. But yeah, it bothers me a little bit, but not as much as the relationship and some of the time problems.
yeah.
I have also made a mistake that I forgot to write down a deep thought. So, whoopsie.
Oops.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Because I fear my thoughts on this episode or this movie are kind of concentrated. Like they're pretty quick to the point.
Yeah. Let's see. It's like I'll kind of open this up with a question. Like,
This is replacing the deep thought.
how do you? Let me figure out how to structure the question.
We should get
Do
a
you-
Jeopardy theme on the
Yeah.
keyboard to wait.
Like, but yeah, I think my question will be: did the movie do a good job with like the story arc of like Rocky being an underdog and like him having like that ambition and whatnot?
Sorry, EJ's in the window
Yeah.
staring at us. Hello, EJ.
Hello,
You made it in the
EJ.
podcast. You don't know that until this episode comes out Friday.
Nope.
She's just dead staring at us. Anyway, sorry, guys. Yeah,
yeah.
so did the movie do good at underdog story? Is that the question, right?
I'll restate it.
Okay.
Did the movie do a good job with like showing Rocky's ambition and like his underdog like story arc?
We really need that Jeopardy button.
Yeah. Luckily, there's the power of editing.
I don't know, man. I don't feel like it as much. I think there's an argument to be made for it because I've seen your letterbox, so I know what you think.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't get that vibe because the moment that he has to get approached by this boxing thing, right? He just kind of accepts it and has that, oh, well, you know, tone, right, with his voice. And he doesn't
you know.
feel excited about it or ambitious
Right.
about it. And then I can see where you get some of that ambition from the training montage stuff where he's like, no, I got to do this. And then as he's talking with Mickey and different things, he's saying, oh, you came to me whenever, or I came to you whenever, and you weren't there. Why are you here now? Why do you care so much about this? It feels like other characters are almost more motivated for Rocky to do it than Rocky himself is.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you my twist on. I don't think you're wrong. I want to preface this.
Really?
It's an open-ended question. I'm not
Fair,
looking for
fair,
like a
fair.
right or wrong answer here. I think for me, it's like Rocky's been like at like a very low state of his life. For I think he's like 30 years old in Rocky 1.
I believe so, because I thought Adrian was
Slightly younger,
yeah,
or
like
something.
32 range, I thought.
Something like that. I didn't pick up on their exact age, but he's been like working just really bad jobs for like nearly 30 years. He's never really had the opportunity to really lift himself up, and like he's never really had like that group of people to really get like that community that he needs to build himself up to. And so yeah, no, he still like did the boxing and whatnot, so he could kind of like, you know, build a name for himself, the Italian Stallion, which I think is a peak name. But like at the same time too, like once he's approached with the offer to get into this boxing ring with Apollo Creed, who's like the best in the world at that time, it's like it almost doesn't feel real to him that like he's getting such an opportunity to do so. And so like he kind of has to learn like how to get himself surrounded like with the right people, like, you know, Paulie, like in exchange for like a sponsorship, like he lets him train on like the hanging meat the animals that are on the meat hooks, just so you can like practice punches and whatnot. And then with Mickey, it's like Mickey's always kind of been like, oh, like you're such a bum and whatnot. And so like I think that kind of like brought Rocky down too. And it's just kind of like they kind of repair their relationship, and they're able to like bond over like being able to get Rocky ready for the fight too. And like through the training montages, peak scene, I love it. Yeah, I gotta get that out for him too, because it's just so iconic at this point when he makes it up the steps for the first time successfully too. And it's just like at that point, like he's put in all that work to get to where he is, and he's ready for the fight at that point. And like, and with all that being said, like I think that's kind of like his little arc, and like, and I think the film just does a really good job of showing that.
Yeah, I can understand where the art comes from on paper and in like a storyboard setting, but seeing it played out on execution, I can't vibe with it. It just doesn't click with me the same way, I don't think. Mm-hmm. I think having that first hour feel a little bit too much onto that character side of things is what bogs it down for me a little bit, because especially with the Adrian relationship thing, I think that's the main driving force of why I don't care so much for that background. It's just because it feels so forced, and that's the majority of what his background is. It's more focused on them than it is Rocky himself. So it just kind of detracts from that. But yeah, I don't have any other notes written down really. My thoughts were kind of simple this time around, I think. Did you have anything else? Or?
I just had a quick fun fact too. The pet turtles that he owns, I believe, I don't know how recent this fact is, but I learned this a few years ago, but I think he still owns the turtles.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like even almost like 50 years later. No, I think Rocky does turn 50 this year.
Wait, does it?
76, yeah. I think it's 50. Hold on.
It'd be close, right?
Right.
I can't do math. This is not good.
Rocky came out in 1976, and it is now 2026. So, yeah.
Yeah, 50 years.
It's 50. Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
That's honestly really cool.
You learn something new every day on Two Dudes Talk Movies, and you will always be reminded that I've never liked a movie. So with that being said, do we think we are ready for ratings?
I think we are ready for ratings.
Alrighty. I want to hear you go first because you're going to be more optimistic. Yeah. Actually, no, I should probably go first because then we can end on a nicer note.
Honestly, sure. Go ahead. You go first.
All right. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. It is a good movie. I know ball when I see it, but it has problems. The time thing and some of the action scenes are the lesser complaints. I'm able to overlook those just mainly because one action scene, I just know how you have to film that stuff.
Right.
It's kind of hard to do that. And then the passage of time, the film's pacing doesn't get interrupted by it. It's just a weird reminder that, hey, more time has passed than you actually think it has. So that kind of bothers me. It's mainly Sylvester Stallone's acting and the relationship with Adrian for the first half of the movie that sour it for me. The relationship feels really, really forced. That initial scene where he kind of forces himself onto her, there's no background music or anything. It's pure dialogue. Camera rarely cuts. It's a very uncomfortable atmosphere. And I give credit to Adrian's actor because you can very visibly tell that she looks uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then I just see Sylvester Stallone. So it doesn't work for me, but I do like the aesthetic of everything. The training montage scene, I think, is probably the best thing to come from this movie. I do like the acting of the side characters, Paulie for sure. He's up there. But yeah, I think it gets overhyped in society and letterboxed a little more than what I think it would be worth. So I think 3.5 out of 5 is still pretty reasonable.
Okay. I think that's a fair rating for the points you made. Let's see. On a scale of 5, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I kind of said this already, but like I think Rocky just does a great job with like his arc, like from being like basically a worthless bum to being like a boxer who went up against the best boxer in the world. Like even if he didn't win, like he still gave it his all, and and like the community he's able to build along the way too. Like it's very convincing through like the acting and the cinematography, the training montages, and all that. And like yeah, I can still recognize the flaws of like Adrian and Brocky's relationship being a little bit like it doesn't quite fit. But like overall, it doesn't really like heavily detract it so much for me. So I think 5 out of 5 would be my rating.
All right, fair points all around. I think we disagree with each other's opinions every now and then,
all the
but
time.
all the
But
time, yeah. But I think those are both fair takes from both of us for our thoughts on this, and they both kind of reflect just kind of the way that we view and interpret different things as well. But with that being said, that is it for this episode of Two Dudes. We will be back next week with the first guest of the semester. No idea who it is yet. I still got to figure that out.
To be determined.
Yeah, I guess you'll have to tune in next week, won't you?
Yeah.
We will see you then for the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And peace out. Bye.
Bye.